Recently, I did a collab with my new friend Alan from his YouTube channel, SoundSpeeds, and I found him a great deal on a used PC on eBay. I've heard of horror stories where people just get totally just ripped off online, and I didn't want that to happen to Alan, and to be quite honest, I actually cannot think of one time where I have been burned buying something online. The most risky thing I've bought online is this, mic that you're hearing me on right now. It's normally like 200 bucks, and I found it for 50 bucks. What was the catch? Well, it had a dent in it, but the guy claimed it worked perfectly, and he was right. I love this mic. So today I want to show you how to be smart and not get ripped off on the internet, whether you're buying used stuff or new stuff. And then we're gonna put my skills to the test, and this is a new camera that I just bought off eBay. It just came in today. We're gonna unbox it on camera, and hopefully it is exactly what I expect it to be, and or else this is gonna be embarrassing. And if I'm being quite honest, it feels kind of light to have a camera in it, so I'm a little nervous, but we're gonna put a pin in that. So let's talk first about the computer that I got for Alan on SoundSpeeds, and also forgive me if some of this seems obvious. And there was a couple of things that really drew me to it. So if I go down here to the description, I basically looked at all the different specs. I totaled up the exact cost if I bought them all brand new or used on eBay, and after I totaled it up, this computer was worth quite a bit more than that. Another thing that's really important is what story are they telling? In this case, it says I'm selling a used gaming desktop. Nothing wrong with it. I'm just moving into a smaller space, so I don't have room for it. So assuming his new space doesn't have room for a desk is what he's saying. The next thing I looked at was the pictures, and it was a cool looking case. Not that that's why I bought it, but it's always a bonus. You know, everything looked pretty nice. It obviously looked dusty, which that's not necessarily a bad thing. All it means is that he used it, right? He just didn't clean it that much, which, you know, I don't clean up. I mean, look, my PC over here is super dusty, so can't really blame him for that. All the pieces seem to be in order. The only thing that looked a little off is one of the sticks of RAM was a different color than the other three, but, you know, not a huge deal. I'm sure it worked fine. So what really stood out to me here is that the pictures really did match the story. It looks like a used PC that somebody is just getting rid of for whatever reason. But the last thing I did to make myself comfortable is I did a little bit of research on the actual seller. As you can see, he's got 100% positive feedback. And then if I go into his profile, I see that he has had 7 positive experiences. Then if I dive in, I see all feedback. I get to dig in a little deeper. A lot of this is actually where he has bought something and the seller was giving him a rating. So this appears to be an individual. He hasn't had that much action, just a few orders every now and then. But what's really important is how has he acted when he was a seller? And if I click his feedback as a seller, I can see that, sure enough, he has had experience as a seller. He's sold 2 things. He's sold a monitor, and he has sold some sort of a projector Moto mod for a Moto Z. Another thing that I want to note is here, he's been a member since April 23rd, 2014. This is not a guy who just made a profile in the past few months. He's been an active member for a while. Basically, when I'm purchasing something on eBay, or any site really, I'm just trying to look for red flags. I'm trying to get a complete story. I'm trying to find a bunch of points, just try to point to whether or not this is a legit good value or somebody just trying to scam me. And then I make a decision based off my judgment after I look at all the details. In this case, there was no red flags. It was just a guy who was just trying to sell a gaming PC at a good value because he didn't need it anymore. All right, let's move on to this thing right here. Let's look at the listing for it, and then I'll talk about what I saw and why I picked it up. So first off, the price was a buy it now of $2,300. He did not have it up for auction at all. Now, for this camera, if it was the camera by itself, that's pretty steep. That's actually more than you would buy it new, but it came with some extras. And he really didn't actually describe all that much of the extras in the description, which was good for me, by the way, because that meant that people who are looking through all the listings didn't know what all this kit included. So if you scroll down to his description here, you can see that it comes with a 12 to 60 millimeter 2.8. Basically, it came with the lens that it's commonly sold with. This is a lens that is actually worth quite a bit of money. But what he didn't mention was this second lens. This is a 20 millimeter f1.7. This lens is valued at somewhere between 200 and 300 bucks that he's just throwing into the pot. But he's also throwing in some more things. He's throwing in a UV filter. It included some ND filters adapters. I've never worked with those before, so it'd be cool to try them. Caps, straps, instructions, Panasonic Vlog, which is an $100 activation code you have to buy. It's a little extra setting that you can buy for the camera after you get the camera. Also, by the way, if you see these ratings down here, this rating is not for that person, it's for the actual camera itself. So there's a lot of value in this camera for $2,300. If I totaled it all up, it's probably somewhere around $3,000 if you just kind of smush it all together. So in the end, you're getting about 20% off on this deal. But let's look at the actual story itself. And he says that I purchased the gear from BH Photo for $2,900 a few months back for a video project that didn't get off the ground. I only tested the camera and the 4K footage looked great. So this is a guy who bought the camera, thought he was going to use it for something, and didn't end up using it. Basically, I'm getting essentially an almost new camera, all these extras for about 20% off. And by the way, I know that might not seem like that great of a deal, but I've been shopping for this camera for a long time. What I've noticed is people are not willing to part from it for really steep discounts. People tend to actually value this camera a lot, which is one of the reasons why I want it so much. People like it. Let's look at the actual pictures. And if you look at the pictures, I mean, they look immaculate. That looks like a camera that has just not even been used. The only thing I noticed is if you look at the 20mm box, you can see some discoloration up here. But then on this box, you don't see any discoloration at all. So what probably happened is he bought that lens used. He didn't mention it in the description, but that's probably the case. But the glass itself looks to be in really good shape, which that's what's important. And yeah, here's a close-up of the glass. Yeah, I mean, yeah, you can tell that he either barely used it or takes really good care of his stuff. So yeah, everything sounded great, everything looked great. Let's look at the person's actual profile and other people's experience with them. So he's been a member since 2011. He's had basically only positive experiences. Everyone seems to like him a lot. He's got 107 feedback received, so he's been pretty active on eBay. This is, again, feedback for all of his experiences. How has he been as an actual seller? So let's click feedback as a seller, and you see 3 instances, but everyone's had a great experience. And another thing he sold was a camera, so he probably knows how to take good care of cameras if he sold one and the person on the other end said it was a great camera. So after looking at all that, all signs point to this being a really solid option for my next new camera. And by the way, don't judge me. I know that's a lot of money, but I'm going to end up having to sell a lot of my gear around here just to make this work in the budget. I just really wanted this camera. It's a super cool camera. I've had my eye on it for a long time. Now I'm about to unbox it and we'll see if, you know, my sleuthing ended up resulting in a good camera. But again, the box is a little light, so I'm a little nervous there. But one thing I will mention to be careful about, this is another listing I saw for this camera, and I was super tempted to grab it because it was the camera I wanted, the GH5. This kit new is like $2,600, so you're saving a lot of money here. But if you look at the description, look at that. I know all the numbers and stuff probably don't mean anything to you, but that actually is not the lens that it's normally included with it. That is a different lens. This is a 3.5 to 5.6 aperture lens. And this lens is worth about half the price as the one that it normally comes with that's supposed to be in this box. So whenever you're buying something, try to be careful to make sure that what they're including with it is actually what they're including with it, because they might be trying to stretch the truth a little bit. Let's unbox this thing. I've been waiting long enough for this. You've been waiting long enough. Let's see if I got ripped off. I really hope that I'm not about to just really embarrass myself on YouTube right now. Okay, here we go. Oh, wow. That would explain why it's so light. This is an accessory I bought for the camera. I thought this was the camera. This is an accessory. I was getting really nervous because, like, there is no way that holds a camera. Okay, so this is supposed to be the actual camera itself. And would you look at that? This is the secondary lens, 20mm. It's a nice shape. I see a little scratch on the casing there, but not on the actual lens itself. This is that Hoya, I don't know much about these. I'll learn about these later. I'm not gonna show you this, but this is the code for Vlog, the Vlog upgrade, because this is mine, not yours. Oh yeah, that looks nice. Everything just feels like new. It's got the charger, he's got it labeled for me, so that'll come in handy. All right, so this is the man of the hour. Hopefully there's nothing wrong with this. This does feel like there is a camera in there though. Woo! That, sir, is a GH5. Everything looks nice, everything looks good. So I went into the secret menu for the GH5. Some devices will actually keep tally on how much the person has actually used it. And what I'm seeing here is he has turned it on 204 times. He has used the shutter 1,087 times. So I'm a little disappointed here. He wasn't exactly telling the truth that he barely used it. He basically only tested the camera and then put it up. So I'm not sure what I'm gonna do here. The camera still looks like it's in great shape. And I mean, I don't even know how many times I've turned off and turned on the camera that you're looking at me through. Probably many more times than 200 times. I'm curious, if you do use a camera, is that, how used would you consider those numbers? Personally, I'm of the opinion that it's not too bad. I don't know. I'll have to noodle about that. I don't think this was a ripoff. I probably still would have bought it, even if I knew that he used it those times. These cameras are pretty heavy duty. They do last a long time, and I've known of people who have used Panasonic cameras for many, many years. They do hold up. So let's talk about some other services that you can kind of protect yourself from getting ripped off on. If you're going to do like a buy in person kind of service, there's Craigslist and Letgo. Of the two, I would say lean towards Letgo. Letgo actually lets you rate the person that you're doing a transaction with, so you can see their previous experiences, their buys and sells, kind of like you could with eBay. So that's really nice information. I try to let other people be the guinea pig, and if you see a rating like, they mugged me, 2 stars, maybe avoid that person, just saying. Also, if you're finding a great deal on a site that you have never used before, a couple things you can do to protect yourself there is just do a quick Google search on that business. There was a company called Jet Camera. It had great deals on cameras, and then I started researching them, and they had a bunch of complaints because what they would do is they would advertise a camera at several $100s off. They say it's brand new, blah, blah, blah. I saw reports of people saying after they would order it, they would get a call from Jet Camera saying, hey, yeah, that was just for the camera body, but if you want the battery, the lens, all the accessories, blah, 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 you're gonna need to pay all this extra money. A quick Google search is always your friend when you're trying to research whether or not you should do business with a company. I saved this idea for last because you probably heard it before, but if something seems too good to be true, probably is. Sure, eBay might have your back and you might be able to have some recourse or be able to cancel a charge on a credit card or something like that, but why go through the headache if something is probably not gonna work out? What's great is because I bought this camera through eBay though, it does have buyer protection, so if something is not as advertised, I have some recourse. I think in this case, I will probably keep the camera, but I might message the guy and be like, hey, you said you just used it for testing, but I'm seeing a lot more uses than that. What's up? If you're interested in a follow-up, I might add in a future video what happened with this camera, but this will be the camera I'm shooting on in the future. If you didn't get a chance to check out that collab video I did with Alan at Sound Speeds, it's right here. It was a really fun video. I just basically helped him get a great deal on a computer. And if you're interested in seeing what I do with this camera, please hit subscribe and maybe join the notification squad. I have a lot of plans for it. I plan on doing a really full, detailed review of it, and I plan on making a lot of video content with it in the future. It's gonna be my camera moving forward. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.